In the town that my family's from, there was only one school, and it only went to sixth grade. And think about that. How limited are you if that's all you can do? And so here we live in the best country of the world. No matter what's going on with the politics, this country has given me so much. And the number one thing that it has given me is opportunity. And yes, there's sexism, there's racism, there's a lot of things. You could say that about any country. But in this country, I have the opportunity to realize my dreams.
You're listening to School District Superheroes, a podcast that puts the super back in superintendents. In each episode, you'll learn how today's most innovative superintendents are reimagining what's possible for students, staff, and their communities. And now for your host, Nick Telford.
Well, today I am joined by Emy Flores, Superintendent of West Covina Unified School District, one of the most, may I say, innovative superintendents that I've had the pleasure of knowing in my time in education. Welcome, Emy, to School District Superheroes.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for the invitation. I feel very honored that you would consider me a superhero. Thank you.
You absolutely are. And maybe on that note, is there a particular superhero that comes to mind that you admired growing up?
Okay, well, for me, my greatest superhero is my mother. My family immigrated to the United States from Guatemala, and it was my mother who was the pioneer in her town. Actually, she was the first one to actually immigrate to the United States, and that was in the mid-'60s. And I saw how she really provided great leadership to our family. Guatemala in those days, actually still now, but not to the same level, was a third world country. And my mother wanted better for her family. And she worked very hard to ensure that her kids would have the most basic things like food, shelter, more than one pair of shoes, the most basic things, running water in the home. And so I saw how she struggled and the work that she did. She was an entrepreneur, so I saw her start up different businesses. And if something failed, she just got up and started again. And she just, great attitude, the most resilient woman I've ever met. So I just feel so honored to be her daughter. So she's my superhero.
That is beautiful and a great way to kick things off. Well, speaking of being a great mother, I actually got a chance to speak to your daughter, Amanda, who as you know, works with Elevo here. And I asked her a little bit about you, your background, your upbringing, etc. And she told me about your move from Guatemala to the United States when you were 9 years old. Is that right?
Yes, I was 9.
You mentioned, those early years and what your mother did for you and the guidance she gave you. What was it that shaped you towards a career in education? Can you point to anything in particular?
Yeah. So let me share a little bit more about that. So at some point, my parents never intended to stay in the United States. They actually came here, earned a little bit of money, and went back. And I was 9 years old when my oldest sister, now the oldest siblings, there's a huge age gap between the older siblings and the last 3 kids. I'm the last of 9. And my sister visited Guatemala, and yes, we were doing better than I guess we had been doing before. My mother actually immigrated to the U.S. to earn some funds for the family. But my sister had a conversation with my mother and said, there are no opportunities for anybody in this country, especially for women. Please let me take her. I'm going to take great care of her. After about a month and a half, she finally convinced my mother, and so I immigrated to the United States. The interesting thing, though, is that my sister had not told her husband, and she surprised him, and he said, "What are you thinking? We already have 4 mouths to feed. We live in government projects. We're not doing well ourselves. She can't stay here." And so at that time, I moved around some. I ended up living with my sister, the one that brought me over. Her husband finally said yes. I lived there most of the time of my childhood, but it was very difficult because in those days, the projects of East Los Angeles, Aliso Village, and there were gangs and drugs everywhere. Both neighbors on each side, had children who had been killed or just gone to drugs and gangs. And there weren't really a lot of role models. And no, nobody's going to love you the way that your parents will. And so life in that house was challenging, to say the least. And my refuge became school. At school, there were so many wonderful educators, whether it was a classroom teacher, a paraprofessional, a custodian, or a nurse, an assistant principal. These people saw something special in me, and they encouraged me. And so I give all the credit to these. These are my heroes. You asked me about my greatest hero earlier, and certainly that's my mother. But there were other heroes in my life who saw something special in me and who believed in me and motivated me. College was not something we ever talked about in the home, but through them, I learned that there's this thing called college and that you may be able to have a better life if you pursue college. And so that had a huge impact on me. And I went into education with the thought that I need to give back. And living in the projects, I found that many of those kids turned to drugs, ended up in jail. Some of them are dead, or dead by 18. Very devastating consequences that come from living in an environment where all you see is drugs, violence. Yet I know that when I look at a child, I know that they have great potential because I did, and somebody saw that in me. And so I believe that it's my opportunity to create dynamic opportunities so that my students can not just survive, but thrive. And so I bring all my passion, all my dedication to my work, because I know that the work that educators do changes lives every day, because there were so many great educators who changed my life for the better.
Well, Emy, I did not know any of that, and it's very powerful, and I think resonates with, a lot going on in the world today, and accentuates, the importance of the mentors that are there for kids every day. It seems like you went on to pursue a college career through UCSB, Domingos Hills, getting your master's, getting your doctorate at USC. Was that part of your goal to be the best version of yourself so you can give back to the greatest possible extent?
A few things about that. Number one, I saw my mother give her best every single day. And no matter the circumstances, good day, bad day, she showed up every day to be the best version of herself, and that changed my family's trajectory. Number two, I'm just very driven, and I love what I do, and I believe that this work is so significant, and I need to show up my very best every day because literally people's lives are depending on that. It's interesting in the town that my family's from. I have very bright older brothers and sisters, and yet 3 of them, for example, only went to 6th grade. And I remember asking my mother, and she said, "That's all you can do in those days." It was only one school, and it only went to 6th grade. And think about that. How limited are you if that's all you can do? And so here we live in the best country of the world. No matter what's going on with the politics, this country has given me so much. And the number one thing that it has given me is opportunity. And yes, there's sexism, there's racism, there's a lot of things. You could say that about any country. But in this country, I have the opportunity to realize my dreams. And so I always aim to learn more, be better, and I continue with my education. And the other thing is that it's something that's personal for me. I need to show up and be the best version of myself so that my children can have the very best. And when I say my children, I'm talking about my students, they're all mine.
I think great lessons to take away from anyone listening to this is you're such a principled person and have your eyes set on the right things, which is obviously making a huge impact. And speaking of impact, you've been superintendent at 2 different districts, 2 very, very different times as well. Evergreen, it was right around COVID, and then obviously now at West Covina Unified. Could you talk to us about the lessons you learned from being a superintendent for the first time, and maybe lessons you've brought to your second experience here at West Covina Unified?
Yes, so let me talk about Evergreen first. Evergreen was tough, but Evergreen was the best thing that happened for me. I went to Evergreen and immediately I was faced with a $12 million shortfall. Our budget was not going to be qualified. We were a very steep declining enrollment, losing 500 to 600 students per year. We had to close schools. I had to change school boundaries. And then the pandemic hit. And so school consolidation, school closures happened right as we're going into the pandemic, which adds another variable. It was a very difficult time, I believe, for all districts throughout the country. Yet it offered a unique opportunity to engage children and families in a very different way. And so I had to be creative and reinvent the way that we do business. And I knew that I needed to get my children engaged. And I worried about their mental health, wellness. And so besides having to deal with the budget, and that included layoffs, that included a forensic review where I had to cut positions, eliminate some programs that didn't actually have as much impact on children. So it allowed me the opportunity to be creative. As an example, the speech and debate program that I started in Fullerton, we started it at Evergreen in a virtual setting. And who would have thought that it would have been so engaging, so exciting? I commissioned one of our special ed buses, turned it into the superintendent's ice cream bus, and invited families to come in and pick up an ice cream through a drive-through. I never thought that was going to be so popular. I had blocks and blocks and blocks of people just waiting in their vehicle over an hour to get an ice cream. And it wasn't about the ice cream. It was about the fact that people wanted to connect. And then, of course, you were one of our partners at that time. You came in and you helped us with our programs. We even did a summer program. And so I think it allowed me the opportunity to be very creative and to also connect with my families. I think that we became so much more close because of the experience that we were having and our genuine interest in bringing families together. We brought in the arts through virtual classes. We brought in STEM, you name it. We did a lot of great things together, and it made a huge difference for my kids. I believe that Evergreen School District survived the pandemic because we were able to be creative and truly serve our community, be the outside-the-box thinkers. That is something that happened for me, didn't happen to me, because through the process, I learned so much. And so that experience, I believe, is what helped me also land West Covina Unified, where I'm just, every day I'm having a really good time here. Even during some tough times, we still have a lot of fun.
Amazing. Thanks for walking us through that. And I know you've made a point to say it happened for you. It seems, it sounds like you're someone who goes through life making sure you never play the victim and using experiences that happen that are adverse or difficult as a way for you to better yourself, your environment, your community. And that simple way to phrase it, happening to me, to for me, is something that I think is just a great life principle, life lesson that we can all learn from. So what are some cool things you're doing at West Covina?
And I'll talk about that, but let me reflect on what you just said.
Okay.
So the attitude that life happens for us, I think, is so important.
Yeah.
My number one goal for my students is to teach them to be resilient. Because life could get tough. You cannot play the victim. Yes, there are challenges, but you know what? There are other opportunities. We live in a society where everybody's a victim. And at the end of the day, the person who suffers the most is the individual, because you don't learn to be resilient. And through resilience, you could get through anything. So the other thing is that just having the attitude that life is so precious and that every single moment is there to enjoy, and that the things that happen in our lives that are challenging need to serve a purpose. They need to teach us something. even during my most difficult days, I showed up with a smile to my job because there are other people who are watching me. And the energy we project is meaningful, and other people feed off of it. So I'm going to get to West Covina now, okay? Yeah. So every week is a win at West Covina Unified. I mean it. It's like our kids are so incredible. But number one, first and foremost, I think it's very important for children to feel that when they go to school, that it's a place where they are loved, where they are cared for, where we're going to engage not just their mind, but also their hearts, right? They need to be safe spaces. And so with that in mind, we make sure that we provide the best foundation that we could give our students, because they definitely need to be readers, they need to be writers, they need to be critical thinkers, they need to have math skills. We know that. But I think we're at a place in society now where parents want more, where children want more. Our students deserve opportunities. And so we're always seeking different ways of doing things. And so we have some signature programs. I actually just wrote about this in my LinkedIn about our speech and debate program that was highlighted in the CSBA newsletter. That's a program that we started back in Fullerton to Evergreen, and now here at West Covina Unified. It's just very different, very unique, and it brings out the best in students. My first couple months, I went to visit a school, a middle school, and I see this just most dynamic teacher, music teacher, and he's doing great work. And I turn over to the principal and I say, which feeder schools does he work with? And she gave me a strange look. She says, he's only here. We don't have elementary music. Like, what? And come to find out, we didn't really have a lot in the arts. I mean, we had what our teachers could provide, but we know that our teachers are already taxed. Let me talk a little bit about CTE, Career Technical Education, thinking broad, thinking big, and developing programs that are going to help our children find perhaps their passion, something that resonates with them. So we've added things like barbering, cosmetology, and healthcare careers, and aviation, and you name it. We have a ton of different programs. So I would say that one of the most cool things, at least right now, in our school district is what we're doing with our continuation school. As we know, typically in most school districts, continuation schools is where the kids who get in trouble get shelved. And so my first year, I noticed that our numbers were going up. And I had a conversation with my staff and say, what's going on here? We did some research, and at the end of the day, it so happened that, at least from my perspective, I didn't believe that we were doing enough at our high schools to provide the support that students needed so that they didn't end up at the continuation school. And so while we're trying to grow student enrollment across all our schools, at my continuation school, I'm actually trying to decrease the number of students because it shouldn't be a place where you go and you're there forever. If you choose that's a place that you just want to remain, you could stay, but my hope is that children have the option after a while, they catch up, we meet their academic needs, and we're able to move them to a level where they can move back to their home school. So we revamped a lot of things. We added a lot around mental health. We've added a college corner, a wellness center, and we started 2 CT programs there.
No, I wish we had hours to explore all of the different initiatives taking place. One of the things of what you said, there's a lot of focus on connection and practical skills around arts, music, speech and debate, even career pathways. And I also know through conversations we've had as well about embracing AI, embracing technology. I want to get your insights on how you are marrying those two together, on embracing that change, because it sounds like you are someone who wants, if you're standing still, you're going backwards, right? You want to move forward, you want to embrace change. So how do you keep that culture of connectivity and connection and personal student wellness and marry that with things like AI?
Okay, so a couple of things. One is that nothing replaces human connection. That interaction between a teacher and a student, that feeling you get when you walk onto a campus, and it just feels like a great place to be. And I believe that even in the world of AI, we could sustain that because we need to also be purposeful in that. We need to create experiences for students to interact. We're at a pivotal place in history. And this is changing the current reality as well as the future. Think about AI in the job market and the different type of skills that are valued now. Think about career technical education as an example. We know that blue collar jobs are probably going to be the most needed jobs. And so what are we doing to prepare our students? You know, there's great opportunities ahead of them. Who's going to do that work? Yet for decades in education, we have put aside blue collar work as if it was demeaning. And yet it needs to come back. AI also provides many opportunities for people to become entrepreneurs and to make a really nice salary without having to go to college. And CTE provides that opportunity as well. And so it's interesting because for the first time in my life, I actually don't think you need to go to college anymore. Now, if you want to build your network, you want that college experience, you want to be around different people from different backgrounds because the diversity that a college provides, I think that there's great value for that. But if you're only thinking about career, and you're thinking about your future, being able to pay your bills, have a home, all of those things, I don't think that you need college anymore. The second thing is governance training, working with board members to ensure that you have the right policies, the right framework, that there's an understanding with your students, your school community, your teachers as to how we keep students safe. And the third thing has to do with professional development. And so our infrastructure here is solid in West Covina Unified. Now, in terms of governance training, last week, we did our first governance training around AI. And I actually led the first half that had to do with our infrastructure. And then the other part where a lot of our effort is going to is ensuring that we have the right training. You know, oftentimes we think that people are going to just learn AI, learn how to use the tools. But the truth is that my staff, at the end of the day, the likelihood that they're going to sit in front of a computer and play with Gemini and see what the new features of Notebook LM are this week, it's not going to happen. My teachers are busy. People are busy. They're picking up kids. They're driving kids here. They're grading papers. They have lives. And not just our teachers. You think about your school leaders, different departments, the workflows, can we improve that? So we have been very decisive, and we are training folks right now as we speak. We've done monthly training for our principals, our directors, monthly training for our office managers and office staff. We've had 2 full days for my district leaders, and then in our teachers. Our plan is to train every school teacher. Right now, we have done 3 full-day trainings for 2 schools. We have 1 more day with them. Before June, our plan is to train 3 other schools, and we will continue with this until we get everybody trained. And so it's not just learning how to use a tool, but also learning how the tool can support teaching and learning and ultimately support students in the class. How do we use the tool to help us differentiate instruction? I mean, you fill out the blanks. How do we use the AI to do X, Y, and Z? So that's another thing. AI is critical. You talk about leveling the playing field. It would be irresponsible for any school district to ignore AI because the future of our students depend on them having those skills that they could couple with whatever career they choose. I believe that AI is not going to take jobs, but the person who has those skills is going to have the advantage. And I want my children to have every advantage available to them.
Wow, yeah, you've really dug deep on that, and you really raised the bar, I think, for superintendents and how they're addressing AI and being realistic about the challenges that it poses, but also taking the opportunity. And that's a theme throughout this last 30 to 40 minutes has really been about seizing opportunity and seeing challenges as opportunities. And no matter what the challenge is, it's the same principle. You've talked a lot about how you, your motivation for your children, of which there are thousands and thousands across the schools that you've served. In terms of the leadership teams and the adults in the room, how have you taken them with you along that journey? Are there any principles that you've adopted in terms of leading teams within a high-performing culture that you're creating?
I was a principal for a little bit over 10 years. I do believe that that's one of the most critical positions in any school district. And as superintendent, you better get that right. And so I'm very much involved in not just the hiring process, but in the process of ensuring that our principals and our assistant principals have the support that they need, whether it be one-to-one coaching, whether it be looking at their specific school and providing additional services, whatever it may be, one-to-one conversations, you name it. And my cabinet is very much aligned with that. I feel very proud of the leaders we have within our school district. They are very pro-student. I believe that we're very much aligned in the values that we have as a school district. And, our board is very clear as well. I haven't said much about Board of Education, but I think that is so critical that you have a board that supports you. And sometimes that support is also personal. These are people who come in and dedicate their lives to my kids. But behind that title is also an individual, it's a human being, and they have families, and ensuring that they know that you care about them as individuals is very important. Along the way, I think that that's the one thing that has helped me a lot, because I can't do this job by myself. I could have the vision, I could motivate, I could do a lot of things. But if people don't feel it in their heart, they're not going to show up and be their best as well. And I feel proud. I actually have a team that has actually followed me from district to district.
Yeah.
My communications director was in Evergreen. She's here now. The folks from Speech and Debate, they followed me from Fullerton to Evergreen, and then I actually hired them here in West Covina to work with me. My coordinator of the arts, I had him as a classroom teacher when I was a principal. I took him to district. When I left the district, he helped me out in Evergreen, and now he's here. My grant writer and director of special programs, I've known her since I was in the nonprofit sector, and I've taken her. So I've got a group of people who, no matter what, they know I have their back, and the loyalty that we feel for each other is very mutual. And for some crazy reason, they follow me, and I'm so happy that they're with me.
No, I don't. It's not very surprising at all. Sounds like you really lead by example, and not afraid to roll your sleeves up and do the hard work. And I think that's what it really resonates with people when they see leaders lead by example and get to know them as well on a personal level. So it doesn't surprise me at all. Final question for you, Emy, before we wrap things up. When your tenure is over at some point, what do you hope that your district says about your leadership?
I want to leave West Covina at a place where it could be a great success for many years to come. I want to put into place the right systems, the right infrastructure that will help this district thrive, whether I'm here or not. That's my greatest hope.
Well, thanks, Emy. I've really enjoyed this conversation. You're like the perfect person for me to have on this podcast for the debut of this podcast, the first guest. I couldn't have picked anyone better. So thank you for your leadership that you're providing to your district, and for folks listening that want to connect with you, where can they find you? I presume on
LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn.
If I was listening to this as either an aspiring superintendent or a superintendent, I hope I haven't created a lot more work for you, because I'd want to talk to you if I was them. Behind every successful school system is a superintendent making hard decisions, building strong teams, and putting students first every single day. These are the real superheroes shaping the future of education. Follow the show on your favorite podcast platform. And if you know someone who would be a great guest, email us at podcast@elevolearning.com. I'm Nick Telford, and this has been another episode of School District Superheroes.